that this is not a process that started just last week. It's been going on for quite a long time. And good projects take a long time. And creating a sculpture 11 feet tall takes a long time. But what a privilege it is to do Lincoln. It's a subject, I was telling Sam, a subject that I've been interested in since childhood. And what a gift to be able to realize a large sculpture of Lincoln for Dayton, which was where I was born, where I did my primary art training at the Dayton Art Institute. To be able to create a Lincoln is a real tribute. I don't know that many of you know that part of my doctrination into Lincoln history was to spend about 2 years in central Illinois traveling the Lincoln District, 8th District Circuit, restoring the markers at each county line where Lincoln rode on horseback with Judge Davis. And it brought me very close to feeling like I knew what Lincoln's sense of land was, the country, and why he had a sense of humility and scale in relationship to our great country. So it was really an honor to do this. Specifically, what we've done so far is we've gone through a difficult process, but enjoyable and meaningful process of going through a couple of different iterations of what Lincoln should look like, and the group has all had input. There have been changes made to the figure, the pose, until we felt it was right. And then the following step, which we've now realized, was to create the full-size 11-foot version. In fact, it's a few inches larger than 11 feet because there's some shrinkage in the foundry process. But now, after a couple more weeks of simple surface refining to get it ready for mold making, we are going to start the casting process. And it's a fascinating process. We really have bronzes 4,000 years old, so it's an old process with some new twists, new technology. But the process is this. After I transport or put this in a crate and transport it to the foundry, and the foundry being used is Art Casting of Illinois, they wanted very much to do our Lincoln. And they're good, close friends of mine for many years. We will get it to the foundry, and then latex is painted on, which is a thick white rubber material. The latex is going to record all of the surface details, right down to the thumbprints and the mistakes, everything. And that is built up to 2 inches thick by just painting a coat, letting it dry, painting another coat, and drying it. So once that latex coating is on, plaster and rebar and fiber is put on the outside of that to hold the shape when we take the mold off. So the plaster backs up the rubber. And of course there are seams in that, so it can be taken apart. That will destroy the original artwork as it's taken off. And that's a sad thing. My first sculpture, I nearly cried. When they took the mold off of Simon Kenton, I said, I spent a long time on that. Why is it falling to pieces? Fortunately, the mold will have a perfect rendition of all of the surface. So next, with that mold laying open, hot wax with a brush dipped in will be painted into the open mold to build up an even ½ inch or so of wax. And then the mold is closed and the seams are sealed by pouring some hot wax inside, using a crane to actually tip it, rock it a little bit, so that it's a hollow, we end up with a hollow wax version of all of the detailed work that's in this monument. Then that hollow wax version of this sculpture is cut into many pieces, as many as 20 pieces. And each piece, the hand, the part of the arm, part of the torso, is dipped into ceramic, a vat of ceramic. And this ceramic will dry, and then we'll dip it again until we have several inches of ceramic surrounding that piece of the monument. The reason we use that ceramic is that it can withstand the 2,000 degrees of molten bronze. We burn out the wax then. That's why it's called the lost wax process. So we have a void inside of that ceramic that will then receive the molten bronze, which is poured from a crucible to people with full dress on to protect them from the heat. They'll pour in the molten bronze, which is 94% copper, the rest silica. And as soon as that's cooled, all of the shell is taken off and the piece is sandblasted. Then the pieces are brazed together, so there'll be weld marks all over the place, all kinds of seams. But we can't keep that, so we go back in with a Dremel tool or a little grinder and dress all of those welded seams or brazed seams. It's the same material, silicon bronze. So once we shape those little seams of welding, you can't tell that there's a welded seam there. Can you imagine putting together a monument this size before they had welding? They did it with hammers, chasing they called it. But now we use welding. And then once that's done, we're not finished. We have to put a patina on the bronze, which is an acid-based mix. We need to decide on what color we want this to be. Rembrandt brown is the color of the Simon Pimpin monument here. And then there's another monument here that is black. So we need to decide as a group whether we want a black patina or we want a Rembrandt patina. Probably those are the two choices. So the patina is put on, and then a clear coat of incrolac, which they didn't have when they started the bronze casting. This is a new development. When it's put on properly, incrolac is a clear coat that will keep the monument from turning green. You know how copper oxidizes? Well, this is an extra layer. Before we only were able to use wax and had to put it on constantly. Now we can use incrolac and it slows down the oxidation process, protects it. We try to keep a coating of wax on the outside of the incrolac to keep it looking good. At that point, I will drive to Illinois again, and I'll be there to visit several times during the process to inspect and make sure everything's happening correctly. Then I will bring this full-size monument back to Ohio on a trailer that's 16 feet long. Lincoln will be in a reclined position with soft padding so that there won't be any scarring to the bronze. When it's time, we will then have a crane on site and lift this monument slowly out of the trailer and up into the air and over to the plaza, and we will have stainless steel pins, 2 or 3 in each foot, that will go deep into the masonry, and we will fuse or lock them. It will be a threaded stainless steel rod that will be cemented into the masonry. And we'll probably veil the sculpture, perhaps an American flag or 2, and probably use a crane to hold that in place until the unveiling. When the day comes, September 16th of 2016. 17. Saturday. 17, yes. Then that will be lifted, and you will feel like you have accomplished your work. It should be a very happy day.
And we, the Lincoln Society, would like to present tonight the ability to send it to the foundry. And thank goodness we had that last power to give up there, because we just inched by with this check to Mike for $22,000.
Thank you.
Mike has worked with us in helping us meet his invoice dates, which he adjusted for us. So we thank you very much for working with us. We have a challenge now to complete our payments to Mike and our completion of our efforts for the celebration on the 17th The total amount that we of our objective is $270,000.
In less than a year.
In less than a year. Thank you.
All right, and thank you all for coming today. And stick around and enjoy the refreshments.